Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be continuing with our series, Dumbfounding Definitions, Dizzying Distinctions, and Diabolical Doctrines, a series sorting through some of the jargon of philosophy. In this video, we're going to be looking at what is compatibilism, continuing our mini-series on free will. Now, compatibilism is the position for those who want to have their cake and eat it too. It attempts to avoid either of the deeply problematic consequences arising from denying free will or denying a deterministic universe by redefining what it means to have free will. Intuitively, when most people think of making a free choice, they think that they must be able to choose either option. The compatibilist denies this, claiming that even if you could not choose otherwise, you can still be free. So, to review, our trilemma is as follows. The universe follows deterministic laws. Free will is the ability to do otherwise from those laws, and therefore free will. And free will exists. Not therefore free will exists, therefore free will doesn't exist. These three premises cannot be held at the same time. Hard determinism is the position that denies the third premise. Compatibilism, that we're going to cover here, is the position that denies the second premise, that free will is the ability to do otherwise, and it affirms the first premise, that the universe follows deterministic laws, and the third premise, that yet, despite that, free will exists. And libertarianism is the position that denies the first premise, claiming that we can break the laws of physics when we are free. Now, the rationale for compatibilism is fairly intuitive. Free will and the laws of nature are both things that most people support and think are important for ethics as well as important for our understanding of reality. So finding a way to keep both is valuable. The challenge is that such a definition will inevitably fight against the more intuitive, incompatibilist definition of free will. There are many different versions of compatibilism, which each offer a slightly different definition of free will. More than other debates about free will, the debate around compatibilism versus incompatibilism is really alive and well in contemporary philosophical discourse. In this video, we're going to look at three versions of compatibilism: classical compatibilism, hierarchical compatibilism, and reason compatibilism. Each of these positions offers a different alternative definition of free will. We'll cover objections to each of these positions in the next video on incompatibilism. So let's take a look at classical first. Classical compatibilism is fairly simple and can be traced back to Thomas Hobbes. For someone to be free in this sense, they must simply be able to do what they want. Or, more technically, they must be able to achieve their desires without impediment. If you can do that, if you can do what you want without impediment, then you're free. If you can't, you're not. Seems fairly simple. At first glance, this seems intuitive. In many classical examples of situations where you are clearly not free, you are unable to do as you wish, being physically forced to push a button, etc. And it seems hard to claim that someone who is doing exactly what they want is not free. However, as we'll see in the video on incompatibilism, there are some counterexamples that may lead us to pursue a more nuanced definition of free will than just, can you do what you want? One more nuanced view is the hierarchical view of compatibilism, and it can be traced back to Harry Frankfurt. To initiate this position, Frankfurt is credited with a particularly powerful objection to the incompatibilist position. This objection takes the form of specifically targeting the claim that someone is free if and only if they have the ability to do otherwise. It provides an example of someone who intuitively seems free, but who does not, in fact, have the ability to do otherwise. So, Frankfurt's thought experiment involves two men, Jones and Black. Jones is deciding whether to take some action, say stabbing Taylor. Black wants Jones to stab Taylor, and is effective enough at manipulating Jones to convince Jones to stab Taylor. However, Black would rather Jones acted without influence. If Jones were to decide not to stab Taylor, Black would persuade Jones otherwise, using all manner of coercion that we would consider impinging on Jones's free will. However, Jones decides to stab Taylor on his own, and Black never intervenes. According to Frankfurt, this is a clear example of someone who makes a free choice, but could not have done otherwise. If the ability to do otherwise is insufficient to define free will, what is sufficient? According to Frankfurt, to be free, your second-order desires need to line up with your first-order desires. Check out our recent video on first versus second-order desires for more on that. Basically, this means that what you desire is actually what you want to desire. Your immediate desires, such as I want an ice cream cone, agree with your second-order volitions, like I want to be the kind of person that wants an ice cream cone. Frankfurt uses the example of the unwilling drug addict, who has both a first-order desire to take a drug and a first-order desire to not take a drug. However, this addict also has a second-order desire to want to not take the drug. They have two competing first-order desires. They want to take a drug and they don't want to take a drug. But they have a second-order desire. They want to be the kind of person that doesn't want to take the drug anymore. According to Frankfurt, this person is acting freely when they do not take the drug, since this is in alignment with their second-order desires. The final version of compatibilism that we'll cover here is reason compatibilism, proposed by Susan Wolf. Under Wolf's view, in order to be free, you must be acting in accordance with what is actually true and morally good, grounded in a very real sense of what is true and what is good. According to Wolf, if someone is acting based on true and good reasons, they are free, even if they could not do otherwise, because their actions could not be improved by making them irrational, lying to them, or causing them to do evil. For Wolf, blameworthy actions, on the other hand, are not free, since they are based on lies and evil. As with Frankfurt, someone's desires need to align with something in order to be free. However, for Wolf, that thing must be reasons that are based in truth and moral good. If one is acting based on reasons that are true, you might be acting based on believing a lie, or based on that are not true, maybe acting on reasons based on a lie, or acting on incorrect beliefs about morality, you might think that killing is moral when it's not, then you are not really free. So if you have bad information or bad morals, then you're not really free. Or at least you require the ability to do otherwise in order to be considered free. Next up, we're going to take a look at objections to these three positions in What is Incompatibilism. Hit that notification bell and hit subscribe if you want to be notified of future videos that we put out, including this last video in the series on What is Incompatibilism. Watch this video and more here at Carneades.org, and stay skeptical, everybody.